Okay, those of you who were with me in the previous exercise may think, Deke, dude, you need to get out more. That was ridiculous. Well, I'll tell you what, that fastidiousness on my part is going to serve us very well. Thank you very much. I am working inside of a catch-up document just so you don't have to go through all that if you don't want to. It's called Precise Guides. And indeed, they are precise. .ind, found inside of our beloved 05 nested numbered folder. Now let's go ahead and align those numbers. You may have forgotten, the whole reason we did this is because we need to align these numbers. And notice the 2-digit numbers and the 1-digit numbers, they don't align properly. We want them to align absolutely properly with each other on the right-hand side, as is the way when we're working with numbered lists. So let's bring up the Paragraph Styles palette, double-click on Step, not Step Bullet, but Step, in order to bring up the Paragraph Style Options dialog box that's associated with that style. Switch down here to bullets and numbering, and we're going to focus our attention on bullet and number position. This is really odd. I mean, if you know anything about an indented list, a hanging indent, then this will seem pretty familiar. We have a left indent of 1p6, which is a 1/4 inch, of course, and then we have a first line indent that goes back a 1/4 inch the other direction, so we establish that the number needs to be aligned over here to the left, and then we have a tab position that is saying, okay, we're going to tab over 1p6. So all this stuff is pretty familiar. This is the way it's always set up when you're working with hanging indents. Here's the guy that's weird. It's this alignment guy right there. It controls the alignment of the number with respect to what? See, that's the question. With respect to what? And the answer happens to be the first line indent, which is peculiar. I mean, right now it kind of makes sense at left. It's left aligned to the first line indent. So we're left aligning the number out here a 1/4 inch to the left of all the other stuff. But once you start aligning it to a different point, like let's say right, because I do want to align all my numbers right, well, right away, nothing changes, which is totally bizarre, in my opinion. And that's because the first line indent, it's out here at -1p6, so it's trying to right align to this column guide right there, but it can't because that would put it outside of the text frame, so it's just putting it where it can put it. But that's unlikely to make any sense to you on the face of it. And I have to tell you, I've worked with a ton of designers who are doing this kind of stuff in InDesign CS3, and not a single one of them ever was getting how the heck this was put together. But you're going to in just a moment. I went ahead and clicked inside a first line indent in order to make that option active. And you can see the blinking insertion marker after the -1p6. Now I want to make this value smaller because I want to nudge the number in. But if you press the down arrow key, notice you're going to get this warning that's going to say, hey, that's an invalid indent value. Indents cannot extend outside the left frame. Well, it already is. InDesign is already going outside the frame. So why you're grumping at me about me doing it where you're entitled to, I don't get that. But anyway, what it's trying to say to you, I'll go ahead and click OK, is you can't set it to -1p7. You can't go beyond -1p6. And by virtue of the fact it was a negative value and you press the down arrow key, it was trying to make it a larger negative value. So you need to press the up arrow key, in other words. So I'm going to press up arrow, and you're going to see nothing whatsoever happening right there until we get beyond, there it is at -0p10. As soon as I get to 0p9, did you see that tiny little shift there? Let's go ahead and zoom in on it. I'm going to cancel out. Go ahead and zoom in on this text so we can see what the heck I'm talking about. And I'll go ahead and double-click on Step once again. Inside the Paragraph Styles palette, switch over to Bullets and Numbering. Click inside a first line indent. Oops. First, let's change alignment to right. Then I'll click inside a first line indent, and I'm pressing the up arrow key. And as soon as I move it, here's 0p10. As soon as it gets to 0p9, look at the 9. It starts shifting over. And there's 0p8, and there's 0p7, and there's 0p6, and there's 0p5, -0p5. Now that's exactly where I want this to be aligned. Not coincidentally, by the way, my friends, this period is now aligned with this guideline right there, the third guideline we added, which, as I say, is not a coincidence because that's 5 points in. Remember how we moved it exactly 5 points in from the aligned left column of rows here of text. So we move that 5 points in, and sure enough, we've set up that first line indent value to be 5 points in. 0p5 means 5 points. It could be, by the way, -5 PTS like that. That's also 5 points. Same diff, all right, as soon as I press the tab key to advance. Anyway, so now I have my bearings. I know that's exactly where I want it to be, and all of my numbers are aligned properly. If you have any doubt about that, go ahead and click on the OK button. And let's go ahead and move down into this section, there's the 10 properly aligned as well. If we move over to this location here, then let me scroll up a little bit. The 11 appears to be aligned properly, and I'll move down to the 1, and it appears to be aligned properly too. If you have any concerns whatsoever, I'm going to zoom in because, like, if you're more fastidious than me, I don't think that's possible, but let's say you are, and you go, hey, Deke, actually, these periods aren't that well aligned. This period next to the single-digit number is floating ever so slightly over to the left from the guide, whereas if I scroll my way, very laboriously, of course, over to, let's go up to the 10, it's much closer right there. Notice that. And I want my periods to be exactly spot on, Deke. You're my kind of user. And here's what we're going to do. I want you to double-click on Step in order to bring up the Paragraph Style Options dialog box. And you know what our problem was? We should have gone 1 point farther. That's what we should have done. Let's go to first line indent. It's still set to right align, of course. Then I want you to press the up arrow key to nudge it in 1 more point, so it's negative 0.P4. That's going to put the period on the other side of the line just a little bit, right? You can tell by the sound of my voice I'm going slightly insane in celebration of your fastidiousness. I'm going to click OK in order to accept that modification. And now, okay, let's really get in there. See where the period is aligned with respect to that guideline right there? Let's go ahead and scroll upward quite a bit to get to the 9. Its period is also precisely aligned where it needs to be. And let's see, I think I need to bring up the navigation palette so I can get around a little more easily here. Let's go to Object and Layout under the Window menu and choose Navigator. And that's going to bring up the Navigator palette right there. That little red thing indicates where we are on the page. Actually, I'll go ahead and make our page a little bit bigger like so. So I'm expanding the size of the Navigator palette, and I'm going to drag this little guy down here to where the 1 needs to be. And I got it. And notice the period after the 1 is exactly aligned as well. Oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. You're doing such a brilliant job of making things not necessarily look good, but certainly we're getting the math exactly right, and the periods are where they need to be. Notice we still have a problem, and that is that the bullets aren't where they need to be. They're too far over to the left, aren't they? And we are going to fix that alignment as well in the next exercise.